Have you ever looked around your quiet home, perhaps a space that was once loud with children's footsteps or always humming with responsibility, and wondered, now what? You've spent decades taking care of others, children, grandchildren, a spouse, parents. Maybe you ran a household, built a career, managed family drama, cooked meals, soothed tears, juggled everyone's needs. And somewhere along the way, you forgot to ask yourself, what about me? You didn't forget on purpose. It just became natural to put yourself second or last. You were the one everyone leaned on, the one who stepped up, held it all together, made it work. But now things have changed. The house is quieter, your time is more your own, and yet you may feel unsure about what to do with it. Maybe there's a strange sense of guilt if you want to rest. Or maybe there's an empty space where your sense of purpose used to be. It's a strange thing, isn't it? After a life filled with giving, it's not always easy to receive, or to pause, or to choose you without feeling like it's selfish. But here's the truth that too many people over 60 don't hear nearly enough. You deserve peace, not just a few quiet moments here and there, not just a day off. You deserve emotional peace that runs deep, peace that isn't dependent on whether everyone else is okay, peace that belongs to you, fully and unapologetically. So today, let's have a conversation, a real one, about what it means to finally put yourself first, not in a way that turns your back on the people you love, but in a way that honors who you are, what you've been through, and who you're still becoming. Because even now, especially now, there is more of you to discover. And it begins with one very simple, very powerful decision. You have the right to matter to yourself. That may sound obvious, but when you've spent your whole life showing up for others, prioritizing yourself can feel foreign, like a language you used to speak but forgot along the way. The first step toward emotional peace isn't about doing more. It's about listening more, specifically listening to the parts of yourself that have been whispering for years, hoping you'd hear them. You know those moments when you sigh and don't know why, or when someone asks how you are and you say, "I'm fine," even though you feel a quiet ache inside. That's your inner voice, your soul, your body, your heart, telling you it's time to slow down, time to check in, time to come home to yourself. That process starts with something many people find surprisingly difficult: allowing yourself to feel. You might be thinking, I feel all the time. And sure, you've felt joy, worry, fear, pride, and 1,000 other emotions. But I'm talking about the feelings that you've kept locked away, the ones you didn't have time to deal with because you were too busy taking care of everyone else. The grief you never sat with, the disappointment you covered with a smile, the dreams you buried beneath responsibility. Sometimes emotional peace isn't about fixing anything. It's about finally letting those feelings rise to the surface without judging them, without pushing them aside, without saying, I shouldn't feel this way. You can feel sad that your kids don't call as often as they used to. You can feel angry about the things you sacrificed. You can feel disappointed that life didn't turn out exactly the way you hoped. And at the same time, you can still feel deep gratitude for the love you've given and received. Feelings are not right or wrong, they just are. And when you allow them space, you make room for something incredibly healing: truth. And truth is the soil where emotional peace grows. I remember talking to a woman named Carol, 72 years old, a retired teacher, mother of 3, grandmother of 5. She said, I spent my whole life keeping everything running smoothly. I was proud of that, but after retirement, I started feeling like I didn't know who I was anymore. And worse, I didn't know what to do with my sadness. She started journaling, not with any fancy goal, but just to let her thoughts land somewhere outside her head. Some days she wrote 3 pages, some days 3 sentences, but over time, she said, it was like peeling back layers I didn't even know were there. And in those layers, she didn't find weakness. She found herself, her real voice, her real desires, her real needs. That's where peace begins, with honesty. Now, once you begin allowing your feelings to surface, something else becomes clear. You've probably been carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be permanent: guilt, responsibility, old patterns that no longer serve you. You may not even realize how heavy they've become until you decide to set them down. And this leads to the next step in finding peace: letting go of what you can't control. That may sound simple, but for people who have spent their whole lives managing, organizing, supporting, it can feel like climbing a mountain. You're used to being the one who made the meals, solved the problems, kept the peace. But now you're watching your children live their own lives. You're watching the world move fast, and you may feel like you're standing still, unsure of where you fit. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you finally admit, I am not responsible for fixing everything. That is not your job anymore. And maybe, just maybe, it never fully was. You don't have to carry everyone else's emotions. You don't have to solve every family argument. You don't have to hold your tongue to keep the peace if it means sacrificing your own truth. Letting go is an act of deep self-respect. A man named Thomas, 76, once shared with me that his biggest challenge wasn't aging, it was watching his adult children struggle and knowing he couldn't step in the way he used to. He said, "I'd lie awake at night thinking about their problems. I'd offer advice they didn't ask for. I thought that was love, but what I really needed was to love them enough to trust them, and to love myself enough to rest." Now, instead of worrying endlessly, Thomas sends a short message every week. "I'm thinking of you, I love you, I believe in you." That's it. He no longer tries to fix, he chooses presence over pressure, and he said it brought him more peace than anything he's done in years. That's the power of letting go. It allows you to breathe again, to release what isn't yours, to trust that life will unfold as it needs to, and that you are still valuable even when you are not doing, solving, or giving every part of yourself away. You've given so much, and yes, giving can be beautiful, but peace doesn't come from always giving. It comes from knowing when to pause. So take that breath, that pause, that long quiet exhale. Because you're not just allowed to rest, you need to rest. You need time for you, for the things that bring you joy, for the parts of yourself that never got the spotlight, for the creative spark, the music, the long walks, the simple pleasures, the stillness. You've spent a lifetime pouring into others. Now it's time to pour back into you. And the beautiful thing is, you're not starting from scratch. You're returning to the part of you that's always been there, waiting patiently to be noticed. Let's keep going. There's more to open up, more layers to release, more healing waiting gently beneath the surface. Because peace isn't a destination, it's a way of living, and your journey there is just beginning. Sometimes when you finally stop running the endless errands of everyone else's life, you're left sitting in your favorite chair, listening to a clock tick in a quiet room, and it hits you. The silence is louder than it should be, not because you miss the noise, but because you realize how long it's been since you've truly listened to yourself. That's what this next step is all about. Listening, not just hearing the ticking of time or the distant buzz of the world around you, but listening inward. Learning to ask, what do I want today? And letting the answer come from a place that has nothing to do with chores, expectations, or anyone else's needs. When you've spent decades focused on others, this kind of inward attention feels foreign at first, maybe even selfish. But let me gently remind you, self-care is not self-centered. It's a declaration that you matter, not just as a caregiver, a partner, a parent, or a friend, but as a human being with your own thoughts, longings, and needs. It's why this next practice is so powerful. Setting emotional boundaries. It might sound clinical or cold, but it's actually one of the warmest gifts you can give yourself. Emotional boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about knowing where you end and others begin. They're about giving yourself permission to feel what you feel, without needing to carry everyone else's emotions on your back. Let me give you a picture. Imagine standing in a house where every door is wide open. People walk in, drop their bags, complain, take what they need, and leave again. You smile, offer a cup of tea, clean up the mess, and sit back down. Exhausted. Sound familiar? Now imagine slowly closing a few of those doors, not locking them, just gently choosing which ones stay open and for how long. Imagine putting a sign on one that says, "I'm resting. Please come back later." That's emotional boundary setting. It's knowing that while you love others, you don't have to absorb every crisis, every mood swing, every request. Your peace does not need to be available for withdrawal 24 hours a day. One woman I met, Diane, 68, told me that her adult children would call her every time they had a disagreement with their spouses. She'd listen for hours trying to mediate, calm them down, or solve the problem. She said, "I love my kids, but after every call, I felt like I was the one in the argument." Eventually, she realized something had to change. So she started saying, "I'm here for you, but I can't carry this one. I trust you to figure it out." At first, her kids were surprised, maybe even disappointed. But over time, they started solving their own problems more and calling her just to talk, not unload. That shift allowed Diane to breathe again, to enjoy her days, to feel lighter, not because she loved her kids less, but because she loved herself enough to say, "My peace matters too." This kind of boundary setting is a skill, it takes practice. But each time you set one, you're reclaiming a piece of yourself that was lost in overgiving. And once you begin to protect your peace with boundaries, something even more beautiful starts to happen. You discover new space inside your life. Space that was once filled with worry, guilt, or emotional noise is now quiet, gentle, open. And that's where something precious can grow. Joy. Not just fleeting moments of laughter, but deep, nourishing joy that isn't tied to achievement or usefulness. Joy that simply says, "I am alive," and that is enough. Many people over 60 feel that their best years of joy are behind them. that the excitement, the newness, the discovery, they're all over. But that's simply not true. In fact, this stage of life can be one of the richest, most joyful times of all, if you allow yourself to pursue it. And this leads us to the next step in emotional peace: choosing joy on purpose, not waiting for it, not hoping it shows up when the stars align, but actively inviting it into your life one small moment at a time. Joy isn't always fireworks or belly laughter. Sometimes it's the feel of sunlight on your skin in the morning, the first bite of your favorite dessert, a quiet walk with no destination, a favorite song you haven't heard in years, a cozy sweater, a conversation that makes you feel seen. But here's the secret: joy doesn't just land in your lap, you have to go looking for it. And when you do, when you start building a life that makes space for your own delight, you reconnect with a part of yourself that has nothing to do with duty, and everything to do with being alive. There's a man named Howard, 74, who said something that gave me goosebumps. He said, "When I stopped working, I thought I'd just fade into the background, but then I started gardening again, just tomatoes and herbs, and every day I'd check on them like old friends. It made me feel like I was part of something living, like I was growing again." That's the magic of joy. It puts color back into your world. It gives you a reason to wake up, not because someone needs you, but because you want to. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you get to ask yourself, what lights me up? Maybe it's painting, or joining a local choir, or learning how to bake that one thing you never had time to master. Maybe it's calling an old friend, or taking a class, or planning a trip. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Because when you follow your joy, when you stop apologizing for what makes you happy, you not only find peace, you also inspire it in others. Think about how powerful that is. After years of being the one who gave, fixed, and sacrificed, you now get to lead by a different example. You get to show the people around you what healthy self-love looks like, what peace looks like, what joy looks like, at any age. And perhaps the most beautiful part, it's never too late to begin. If you woke up today, you are not finished. Your story still has chapters left to write, and those chapters don't have to be filled with obligation. They can be filled with softness, with discovery, with healing. So take this moment and ask yourself gently, what do I need today? What boundary do I want to set? What joy can I choose, even in a small way? Then listen, and trust your answer. Because after a lifetime of giving, you deserve to give back to the one person who has carried you through it all, you. Let's keep exploring this journey together. There's still more to uncover, still more ways to invite peace, purpose, and joy into your life. Not someday, but today. There's something deeply healing about choosing yourself, especially after a lifetime of choosing everyone else. It may not come naturally at first. In fact, it might feel uncomfortable. You might sit down with an hour of free time and feel like you should be doing something productive. But what if being is just as valuable as doing? What if stillness is not laziness, but a sacred act of self-preservation? We often think peace comes from everything around us settling down, but real peace, it happens when we settle into ourselves. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through something simple, quiet, and completely within reach: creating daily rituals that center you. A ritual doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't need candles or music or perfect timing. It just needs intention. It needs to feel like a space you've carved out for you. A space no one else controls, fills, or interrupts. Maybe it's sitting with a cup of tea every morning before the world wakes up. Not scrolling, not planning, just sitting, breathing, listening. Or maybe it's stretching your arms toward the ceiling and saying, "Thank you, I'm here. Today is mine." These small moments, repeated with care, create emotional anchors. They remind you that your life is not defined by urgency anymore. You are not racing against the clock. You are living inside your time, and that time is yours to shape. One woman I met, Gloria, shared that every evening she lights a small candle, turns off her phone, and writes one thing she's proud of from that day. She told me, it may be something simple like, "I took a walk," or "I made a healthy meal," but the act of noticing those things makes me feel like my day had meaning. It makes me feel seen by myself. That's the beauty of ritual. It creates space to witness your own life, to hold yourself with the same tenderness you once gave to others. And slowly, gently, it rewires your nervous system to expect peace, not chaos, as the baseline of your day. It also makes it easier to trust yourself again. Because let's be honest, when your life was focused on everyone else, you learned to ignore your own instincts. You pushed through fatigue. You said yes when your gut said no. You didn't have the luxury of asking, "Is this right for me?" You just did what had to be done. But now things are different. And one of the most empowering steps you can take toward emotional peace is to start trusting your own voice again. Not the voice of old habits that says, "Keep quiet." Not the voice of guilt that says you should be doing more. Not the voice of fear that says, "It's too late." but the deeper voice, the wiser voice that says, you know what you need. That voice may have been quiet for years, but it's not gone. It's just waiting for a little space to breathe. And the more you honor it, even in small decisions, the stronger it becomes. You might feel it when you decline an invitation that doesn't feel right. You might feel it when you speak honestly in a conversation. You might feel it when you walk away from something that once defined you but no longer serves who you are becoming. This is what peace looks like. Not perfection, not a life free of pain or difficulty, but a life that's finally built around your truth. And when you live from that place, something shifts. You start to feel rooted, grounded, not just reacting to life, but creating it. That's the final piece of emotional peace, realizing that you are the author now. After years of turning pages written by duty and necessity, you get to hold the pen again. And no, you may not know exactly what the next chapter looks like, but you do get to decide the tone, the rhythm, the direction. So what do you want this chapter to feel like? Maybe it feels like softness, like mornings that start slowly, like laughter that comes more easily because the pressure is gone. Maybe it feels like curiosity, like trying new things without needing to be great at them, like giving yourself permission to explore without fear. Maybe it feels like release, letting go of comparisons, regrets, or roles that no longer fit, and realizing you're not less because you're older. You're more seasoned, more aware, more capable of choosing joy without apology. You've already done the hard parts, the proving, the surviving, the carrying of others. Now it's time for the part where you breathe. And if anyone ever told you that aging means fading, they didn't know the truth. Aging is not about disappearing. It's about distilling, letting go of the noise, the clutter, the expectations, and revealing the strongest, clearest, most authentic version of you. You may not have the same energy you once did. Your body may have changed. But your essence, your spirit, your wisdom, your power has only grown. And now, more than ever, you deserve to enjoy the life you helped so many others build. So today, take that moment, that pause, that breath. Ask yourself, what do I need today? What do I want to feel? What truth have I been waiting to say? And what would it look like to finally put myself at the center? Not out of selfishness, but out of wholeness. Because when you are whole, you don't just feel better. You show up better. For others, for life, for yourself. This isn't the end of your giving, it's the evolution of it. Giving to yourself, pouring into your own well so that what flows out is no longer sacrifice but abundance. And I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share one way you're going to start prioritizing your emotional peace. Maybe it's saying no more often. Maybe it's a new morning ritual. Maybe it's just taking 5 minutes a day to breathe. Whatever it is, claim it. Say it out loud. Let it be real. And if this message spoke to you, if you felt seen, heard, or simply comforted, please give it a like and consider subscribing. There's a whole community here, walking the same path, remembering that after a lifetime of giving, it's not just okay to focus on yourself, it's essential. You've earned this peace, you've earned this joy, and most importantly, you've earned the right to say without hesitation, I matter just as I am. Here's to living your fullest, freest, most peaceful life, starting now.